Testing 1, 2, folks. Yeah, we are live. You're listening and watching the Let the Truth Be Told Talk Radio. And we getting the day started a little bit early. Every time we get a little bit early so we can share it around to our groups and so forth. So let me see if we live yet, partner. You see us anywhere?
Not yet.
Let me say something so I can hear you.
I'm looking right now.
Okay, let's see if we live. We're not live yet.
Yeah, you are.
You see it?
Yep.
Where you see it at?
On your page.
Oh, yeah, there we are. Folks, y'all come on in. We got a great show today. We're definitely, we got a great show. We're going to talk about the legendary Lee Michaels. He'll be with us a little bit in the moments of the show. But we're going to talk about how music affects the brain and how music changed the way a person think, how they act, like with the rap music and the violence that goes along with rap music. We're going to talk about those issues, music from the old school. And we got a great guest. We got Lee Michaels, who created the Hot Mix 5 back in the day and a lot of the other house music groups. But he was also the producer over at BMX. And so Mr. Michaels is going to grace us with his appearance today. And we're going to talk about the music. But in the meantime, at 6 o'clock, we're going to start talking about some of the other things, the midterm elections. We want to talk a little bit about the governor's race here in Illinois. There's a lot of things going on, and we want the American people to know that it's that time. We need to get out to vote. Early voting has already started, and we got to make sure that we pay attention and watch the polls. What you think, partner?
Yeah, that definitely needs to be done.
Yeah, I think that is one of the biggest factors. So that we can at least make sure that these elections are honest, man. And I think here in Illinois, I do really believe that the people have gotten fed up with the current leadership, and I just think that we need that change. We need to get beyond the point of thinking whether it's a Democrat or Republican. Man, we need somebody that's gonna come in here and think about the American people. That's what we need. So, yeah, y'all come on in. We sharing that around to our groups right now, and we got a great show. Let me hear you, partner. You still over there talking?
Oh, I ain't said a word.
Yeah, that's yeah, we got a grace coming in today. We're going to talk about music and how it affects the brain and how people think when they're listening to music, how they react. Because I can remember music always having a great message in it. And we're going to explore that because it is really, really. I look at music today, and it's hard to understand the lyrics of a lot of the music because, especially with the rap music, this music is so it doesn't have a basis to it. It's just got a lot of bass and boom, but the lyrics are just explicit or they just straight stupid. I heard some of the kids talking about mumble rap. You ever heard of that before, bro? I guess this is where you never really say words, but you're just mumbling. And I mean,
I can go along with that.
But we listen to music, and back in the day, and we listened to music. The lyrics meant something. But we got a great show. We wanted to get started, and a little bit early. We're sharing it around to our groups. We got a great guest, Mr. Lee Michaels. He'll be on the show a little bit later on, and we'll be talking to him about the difference in the music from back then and today. And also, Mr. Michaels was responsible in creating the Hot Mix 5 and some of the house music. I mean, he is a legend in the music world. He's been a producer. And guess what, by the way, he's decided to produce our show. So we'll talk to Mr. Michaels about that. But, when we get started at 6, we got 4 minutes. We're going to talk a little bit about some things going on in the news, man, because the news is just, it's depressing, but we just have to keep our chin up. And we know that we can go to the polls this time and be able to make a difference. And that's what we need to do, folks. So y'all share it around to the people that you know of. Come on in. We got a great show, and we're going to keep doing what we're doing, man. And that's telling the truth and awakening American people. So if you ain't got nothing to do, call your friends and let them know you're listening to Let the Truth Be Told Radio, and we're early, 3 minutes before showtime, and we're sharing it around. We're going to get it in.
I know you're going to kick me out.
Just for a minute, I'm going to kick you out. I'm going to bring you back.
You always do that to me.
Oh, yeah. We got a great guest. Mr. Michael should be on here with us shortly, but we're going to talk a little bit about, I saw that there are some positions opening. There's position openings here for a lot of poll watchers and judges and stuff. And I want people to really go out and get those jobs. They pay pretty good. And so, and that way we get some normal people in there. You know what I'm saying? Some people that the everyday people, that's what I'm looking for. Somebody that doesn't have a motive or, belong to a group that has a motive to try to get votes the wrong way. So, yeah, folks, if you ain't got nothing to do, share it around. We got a great show. We got great guests coming in here. And we got 2 minutes before showtime. Anyway, in the meantime, in between time, y'all make sure y'all share it around. And we getting it in too, partner. That was a great show yesterday with Mr. Hardiman. We had T.O. Hardiman on the show yesterday, and it was good. It's always good to have information about other people out here trying to do the right thing. So that was positive. All right, partner, you gone.
Sorry, here we go.
And welcome, folks. I want to welcome folks to the Let the Truth Be Told talk show. And we're gonna get it in. Let us get this thing started.
An accident or simply murder?
We can deliver racial justice and we can make America once again the leading force for good in the world.
President Biden, will he make America great? We want to hear from you. Global, universal, and coming from the windy city of Chicago, Illinois. Now it's time to let the truth be told with David Lowry.
Let's get ready to rumble! All right. It's All Out Wednesday, folks. That's right. No topic is sacred. But everything that we discuss, we're going to talk about the truth. So y'all share it around. If you ain't got nothing to do, call all your friends and let them know. You're listening to Let the Truth Be Told Radio, and I'm your host, David Lowry Jr. And the show is Let the Truth Be Told, Let the Truth Be Told. I'd rather for you to hurt me with the truth than come for me with a lie. Let's get it in, y'all. First, I want to give all praises to God, but hold up. Good morning, Vietnam. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you at, and welcome. Welcome to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. Folks, I want to thank you for tuning in. First, let me give all praises to God and my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for making it possible for me to be here. And I want to welcome my listeners, first time, regular listeners, new listeners. If you're driving by on the internet, y'all just stop in and check us out what we're saying. Folks, I want to lay the groundwork for the show today. We got a great guest coming in. We try to take a look at things that cause violence in our communities. And I know when we were coming up, and some of y'all parents will attest to this, that we used to laugh about getting old, and now we have become our parents. And I can remember my parents listened to the blues, the B.B. King and the Howling Wolves and all of those kind of blues, man. And being a young guy, I thought that, man, this blues stuff is just out of date. But then I really didn't understand the music, the blues. And at the time, when my parents was listening to the blues, they were listening to the blues out of relief because they were working in the cotton fields. They was experiencing a lot of things down south that people were sad about. People were getting killed. People didn't have jobs. They didn't have money. People like B.B. King and them, they didn't have a lot of money, but the artists played at barbecues and cookouts. I can remember as a boy, I first heard B.B. King down in a little town called Marie, Arkansas. My father played on a baseball team, the Golden Lakers, and he played, and they hooked the mic up to the guitar up to the mic, and they played. But the reason why I'm saying is that because each generation has its own music that it's like. And so, hang on for a minute. Each generation has its own music. You know, like my music was the blues, and my parents' music was the blues, and my music was more like Earth, Wind, and Fire. James Brown and Patrice Rushen and all those type of people, the new wave music. And I'm saying it because the music that came after each generation also was able to, okay, let me send it over to you. Well, you wouldn't do it from here. The music back in our day was always the kind of music that uplifted you. It did talk about things. It talked about the situation. You know, we had James Brown talking about "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud," and it was always a message to the music, is what I'm saying. And the message into music now seem to have been lost because a lot of the music is not talking about anything. It's just with a lot of beats, a lot of explicit lyrics, a lot of cussing, and I think that affects the brain in a certain way. You know, and the reason why I'm saying it because I too, when I work out or I go to the gym, I listen to, when I'm pumping iron, I listen to rock and roll. When I'm hitting the bag and jumping rope, I'm listening to rap music. And so I know that my mindset changed when I listen to the different music. Coach, are you there? Michaels? Coach Michaels, are you there?
I got it. I'm coming in.
Okay, you got the link?
Yeah.
Okay. And so when I listen to the music has always made me change. When I'm hitting the bag in the morning time and I'm jumping rope, you know, the rap music just fuels me. What the brothers are saying, it gets me hyped. My adrenaline is flowing, and I'm really getting a good workout. So what I'm trying to say is this: music affects the brain in a certain way. And I noticed that in the 90s, when the rap music came, brothers became hardcore. They was listening to the music. They was trying to create that in their neighborhoods, selling drugs, buying guns, shooting each other. And so that was when we started to see a difference in the Black community. The music brought all of that type of activity to our children. And that's what we're talking about today, how music affects and changes folks' brain. With no further ado, I'm going to bring the crew in. Hey there, boss man.
Hey, how are you?
Good, folks. I want to welcome to the show our legendary icon, our new producer, Mr. Lee Michaels. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Hey, and I got my crew behind me here.
I see that. Let me bring Mr. Binky in. Mr. Binky, welcome.
Hi, Mr. Martin.
Coach, you've been in this industry for a long time, and you've done a lot of stuff. I know some people, I was talking to some people in Baltimore today, and I mentioned your name, and they said, "So is that the Lee Michaels from Baltimore?" I said, "He could be. Who knows?"
No,
but
there is an imposter there in Baltimore. He's a knockoff Lee Michaels. No, and the difference between Lee, and I know him, he's a nice guy.
okay,
he's into the gospel music radio aspect, but I do know him. He's a good guy.
Well, Coach, I want you to, we've been talking about music and how music changed the attitude. I know you've been in the music business a long time. I can remember the blues and how my parents loved that.
Right.
Then we got the contemporary with the staple singers and Bobby Womack and all those great artists and stuff for our music. And each generation had music that they relied on, and it was always a message, like James Brown, "Say It Loud, I'm Proud." All of that music back in our day that sort of fashioned us and gave us messages on how to succeed in life and how we had to persevere. The Barcades,
That's right.
all of these artists did that. Can you talk to our listeners a little bit? Because I know a lot of people listening, and I know you was instrumental with the house music and all of that. Let our listeners know a little bit about your background and some of the things that you've done as a legendary producer today, Coach.
Well, I started in 1965. I was 15 years old when I got my first opportunity to go on the radio, and it just blew up from there. I went from, and I grew up in Norfolk, Virginia, and from there I went to St. Louis, and I ended up working in New York, Philly, Baltimore, Washington, Norfolk, Charlotte, Atlanta, Miami, Houston, St. Louis, Chicago, San Francisco, and LA. And then I also consulted 16 other stations in 16 other markets. So I had an incredible career over a 50-year period, doing radio and some television. And it was just a blast, to say the least. And I had the opportunity to work in just about every format, from country to rock, top 40, R&B, jazz, talk. And, so a pretty diverse background in all types of music and radio formats. And it was just more than just fun, to say the
Coach,
least.
Coach, now, my question to you is, and you've been in the business, and you've seen the generations of how music went along. Now,
Mhm.
talk a little bit about the blues, because I can remember the blues had a lot of messages in it, with people
Yeah.
that was downtrodden and so forth. Because I want you to talk a little bit about that music. I want you to talk a little bit about the stuff that we had, that we got into, and today's music, because I think the message has been lost, and today's music is just something that's
Mhm.
got good beats. What do you think, Coach?
Well, dealing with the blues was like country music. It had stories in the lyrics. It told, about hardship and good times and relationships, and it was very storytelling, um, much like country and some R&B even, and maybe some of the pop music had stories in them as well. But blues was definitely storytelling music, and it talked a lot about hardship and heartbroke, a lot
I
of
just started
a lot of heartache and pain and you know I mean and it pretty much I used to call it the black man's country music, but it transcended itself into being more general appeal. So black people, white people, Asians, everybody loved the blues, and many times the blues artists would go around the country doing the circuit, and 50% of the audience was white. So it was very telling in that aspect as well. So blues was I consider it a category of music that was a foundation for a lot of other music offsprings, and probably some of the country as well had the spirit and the feel of blues. Certainly R&B had its strong element of blues. And
yeah,
even some jazz music had a little bluesy feel to it.
it did. It did.
Yeah.
And when you get Binky, you got some questions there for this legend?
Oh no, I didn't listen to the blues. I listened to like Diana Ross and Dionne Warwick, Stylistics and the Spinners and Gladys.
Okay.
So
R&B.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm
Yeah.
definitely blues stupid.
No, but you're probably not. And there were probably some songs that you appreciated that was blues and you didn't really think of it as blues. Like BB King, The Thrill Is Gone, was a big top 40 R&B and blues song.
And man,
And he crossed over with that.
and man, you know what? The thrill is gone. That still holds true to the day, because boy,
Oh yeah.
you
Absolutely.
you have some woman problems, and because that's how
I don't worry about that. I'm single.
it was back in the day, man.
Okay.
But as a
He's
little
one of the lucky guys, right?
right. As
Have
a
you
kid
been
growing up,
married?
you would,
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know the pain.
I've
yeah,
been
you the pain, yeah.
divorced for 20 years. And
Okay.
yeah, and I had a daughter that passed away in 2012, and
Hmm. Sorry
I
to hear that.
I raised her pretty much most of her life by myself. So
Hmm.
my last heartache I don't want anymore.
I hear that. Yeah.
So
Can be very painful.
yeah,
No question.
Yeah, and so Now let's talk about R&B, man. R&B seemed like R&B came from the church, man.
It
You know,
did, and some of
that
the blues as well.
yeah, because that
Mhm.
was a mix of church music and the blues. And my mom used to play it, man. And she says, "Well, I know you won't listen to this. I know you don't like this, but it's gonna send you a savior." You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, R&B uh, definitely has its roots in the gospel music. Many of the artists that became R&B artists started in the church and
Aretha,
doing gospel music. Aretha, Bobby Womack, you mentioned him earlier. He has roots in gospel music.
David
Sam
Ruffin,
Cooke,
yeah,
and many of the R&B artists. Probably some of the Temptations may have had some,
yes,
gospel roots and the Spinners and artists like that. So yeah, I mean, you know, Irma Franklin, you know, Aretha's sister.
hmm
And so yeah, a lot of people came out of the church and transcended into commercial R&B or pop or top 40 music. And because the gospel music didn't really generate a lot of money.
honey, yeah,
So they had to end up going commercial or R&B or top 40 type music in order to generate some revenue.
Motown.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Coach, now I'm gonna switch gears a little bit because I want to get back to the rap music thing because we got to break that down. Now, tell me, how was it for a black man to enter that business? Because you was in that business also in the front office, right?
Yep.
What was it
Yeah.
like breaking into the music industry? Because most of the time, most of the companies were white-owned companies, and
Mhm.
they control the masses, they control the money and stuff. So, what was it like knowing that you loved the music? What was it like trying to break into that business?
Well, as a young child, really, 15 years old, I actually fell in love with radio at about 11, 12. I knew that's what I wanted to do, and my parents thought I was, losing my mind, or they were ready to have me committed because they said it makes no sense, son. You're not gonna make any money doing that. And why don't you follow, the family, you know, be, get a job at the post office or work down at the naval base in Norfolk or something like that, or be a doctor, lawyer, whatever. But don't radio, no. You're not gonna make any money. I made more money doing radio than everybody combined in my family in
Wow.
terms of jobs. So it depends on what you love, your passion for whatever it is you do, and I don't care what that is. If you want to be a ditch digger, be the best at it.
Yes.
Have a passion for it. If you want to be a doctor, love it. Go all balls in and be the best doctor you can be to save lives and get people healthy and not just patch them up and kick them down the road and sell them some drugs. Because that to me is not well. I won't. I'll leave that alone.
Well,
That's another show.
Ben
let's
Carson.
show.
Ben,
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Steve. Mr.
Ben,
Bain.
Ben Carson would be a good example of being the best.
Yeah, he was a great brain surgeon.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Talking about the
no
Ben
doubt.
Carson, that was the political Ben Carson.
That's right. Yeah, he
Yeah.
came out of Baltimore with John Hopkins. I think he was
Really?
one of the chief medical or brain surgeons over there.
Yeah. Children, mostly for children,
Mm-hmm.
saved a lot of children's lives and
Yep.
stuff. Major surgeries.
So, Coach, now, I have a lot of friends, and I know some of them are watching right now. And these are the house music people. They
Yep.
love house music. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I know you was around and you helped create a lot of like the House Mix 5 and all the rest of these guys.
Hot Mix 5. Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about you and creating that music in that era.
Okay. Well, it was in the early 80s. I was at WBMX as a program director, operations manager, and we were doing battle with WGCI, with two R&B stations battling it out. One book they win, next book we get, the top chair, and it's just back and forth, back and forth. I said, you know what, this is not working. I want to I want to win and win decisively and stay on top.
Mhm.
Well, I began to look around, and went to the streets and the clubs to try to find out what was happening that wasn't happening on the radio. And I ran into several club DJs, Ralphie Rosario, Mickey Mixon Oliver, Kenny Jammin' Jason, Scott Smoking Seals, and what? Oh God, my brain just went
That
silent.
Texas House was
Farley
just-
Jackmaster Funk.
Yeah.
So those were the 5 guys that I ended up choosing. I did do a competition and had other DJs send in tapes. And back in those days, there was no CDs and it was all on reel-to-reel tape. So we began to audition these jocks and find out who was hot and who was not.
Mhm.
And one of the guys that was kind of a pioneer in the house music genre was Frankie Knuckles,
I
and
remember
went
that.
on to be very legendary and noted as one of the godfathers of house music. But during the time, I'm talking 80, 81, when I introduced mixes and house music to the radio, his skills were not really that tight at that time. He got better over the years, and technically his tapes were not clean and it was a little muddy and a little offbeat and stuff like that. So he didn't make the cut. So the 5 guys that I chose went on to be legendary mix show jocks on the radio, and they were the ones that pushed the whole house music / dance music on the radio during that time. Now, disco preceded what we did there from 81 until 86, 87. But these guys lived it. I cherry picked each one of them from different parts of the metro area to encompass what Chicago looked like, felt like, and danced like. So I had a couple of white guys, I had a Hispanic guy, and I had a brother. I actually it was going to be the Hot Mix 6, but the 6th person that I chose didn't show up for the big rollout, so it ended up being the Hot Mix 5.
Mhm.
Wow.
And it's funny because now I have a limo business here in LA, and I run into people and they want to play their music in the car and what have you. And many times when they start playing house and EDM type music, I always ask the question, where did it all start? Where did house music come from? What was the originating city? And you'd be surprised how many people have no idea. I had a successful DJ from the Netherlands that I picked up one night from the club. He had just finished his set, and we got into a little conversation about music and what have you. And I asked him the question. I figured, well, this guy knows. He's playing house music at this club, right? He's got to know. He didn't know. He thought England or I think he said Germany. He came up with 3 or 4 different European cities,
Mhm.
and none of them were right. It all originated in Chicago, Illinois.
And I
Spread
remember.
across the world from there. New York was the next big city that embraced it.
Mhm. Now, Coach, you were instrumental in a lot of things here in Chicago. Like you were the manager at BMX and some of the other stations and so forth. You've also worked with people like Roland Martin and so forth. Let's talk about some of the people you've worked with and some of the successes that they've had.
Mhm. Well, Doug Banks and Tom Joyner were 2 of the probably nationally known personalities that got their foundation in Chicago. Tom Joyner on 2 stations there in Chicago, WJPC back in the day. And
Mhm.
then he came over to WGCI. And that was an interesting story how he transcended into being a nationally syndicated air personality. And it really kind of happened by mistake, if you will. He was actually working at a station, KKDA in Dallas, K104, and he was doing mornings down there. And Marv Dyson, the general manager at the time at WGCI, was trying to get him to come back to Chicago, and they engaged in conversation and negotiations, and he went back to the station in Dallas and said, "Hey, I got an offer for Chicago, and they want me to do it." And the guy that owned the station there, if I remember correctly, offered him more money to turn down the job. And then Marv says, "Well, what the hell? Well, why don't you do afternoons?" And so that created the opportunity for him to become the fly jock.
Fly jock.
And,
I remember
yeah.
that. Yeah.
And so he did mornings in Dallas, got on a plane midday, came up to Chicago and did afternoon drive, got back in his limousine, went back to the airport and went home. He did that 5 days a week for at least 5 or 6 years. And I bet that he wouldn't be able to do it that long. And I lost $500 on that bet. He did it. It may have been closer to 10 years.
Yeah, because I thought he did it a long time.
He did. And at some point in time, he stopped flying back and forth, and the technology came about where gave him the opportunity to do it remotely from Dallas. So he set up a studio in his home that he was able to do it as often as he wanted to from home.
Now,
and certainly today, with the internet capabilities, you can do it from anywhere.
Now, I want to get into today's music. I watched rap music come in the 90s, the Tupac, the Biggie, first it seemed as though rap music had messages to it. A lot of the artists out of New York, what is that, Afbanica, KRS-One, and all of these guys had a message to the music that was uplifting in the Black community and so forth. So it was kind of like for us, because as I was getting older, the Barcades and the Earth, Wind, and Fire, they started to wane away in the 90s, the R&B set, and it started getting into the hip hop music. And that's when I started to see a lot more things bad happening in the Black community, because once the economics was out of there, and then this music, and I tell people all the time, I was just talking about how in the morning times when I work out, I'm hitting the bag and I'm listening to rap music, and my adrenaline goes up like 100. You know what I'm saying? And I'm banging away, and my whole attitude is different because it makes you think a certain way. And if whatever the lyrics are saying to you, they can really fire you up. And so I look at that, and I look at how some of the music has called the young people to go out, try to emulate, like shooting up somebody or selling drugs in the neighborhood and so forth like that. So my question to you as an icon, and you've been around, tell me, what are your thoughts about rap music? And do you honestly think that it has been something that has been a deterrent in the Black community as far as uplifting or making people down about themselves, or trying to create different facades that the music and the videos was creating? Because in a lot of these videos, we would see gunfights, we would see a lot of drugs and money, and you would see women dressed whores, and they portrayed the pimp stuff. Do you think, as they've been in this business, do you think that music plays a role on how people that listen to it, how they act?
Absolutely. I mean, plain and simple, it has had an impact on society, not just in the Black community, because you can go to some of the rap shows now and the majority of the audience is going to be white and Hispanic. So it is today's top 40 music, because it's so general in terms of acceptance across every age bracket and ethnic background or whatever. It is today's pop music. It's more popular than anything else. And I say, unfortunately, in some respects, and fortunately for others in other respects, it has given an opportunity for some people who would never, ever had an opportunity to see what success looks like. It has afforded them that opportunity. So That being said, that's the positive aspect of it. But when people become successful and make millions, hundreds of millions, and billions of dollars in music in general, not just rap music, but certainly rap music, unfortunately, and I'll go as far as saying also in sports
Mhm.
and character development is missing. You can make a lot of money and come from a rough, tough background, and you won't change. Yeah, you'll be able to buy the best champagne and stay in the best hotels and fly first class, but what's in your heart and your soul doesn't change. And that hardcore street attitude continues. And that's why you hear so many rappers getting in trouble, whether it's domestic violence or just violence in the streets, getting shot in hotels or clubs or on the street. It's sad. It breaks my heart because we need to learn how to manage ourselves and hire people and listen to them, follow their leads. When you hire someone to make you better, follow their lead. Don't discount it. Well, you paying this guy, $500,000 a year, and then you're going to ignore the advice? Really?
And Coach, you're so right, because I noticed that
Sad.
when the rap music came out, the whole appearance in the Black community changed. That's when the sagging pants came, and the oversized clothes, and the language itself in the music. We saw our women who wore respectable clothes, and then we started to see our women wearing clothes with their breasts hanging out and dresses so short that if they bent down you would see their butthole. All of that changed our society, and it changed the way that our young people was thinking, because once the rap music came in, it was a lot of crime going on, because it glorified crime, drugs, and killing and all of that. And the Black community became a war zone because of the music and the ideology that it portrayed. And I think that a lot of people don't want to say, well, music and music. It is not, because I can remember when we came along, James Brown was saying it loud on Black and I'm Proud. The music was uplifting. The music was the type of music that would encourage you to be somebody or to do something positive. And so coming from that type of music and a world like that where we were successful, we went on to own businesses and become president of big companies. That was because the music that we listened to corresponded with our ideas and the drive that we had. And so when we saw the rap come in, it corresponded with ideas, but it corresponded with a lot of the negative things that was happening in the Black community. And a lot of our young people, they emulated that, and the Black community became a war zone. What do you think about that, Steve?
Well, music affected the white community too. Back when Sharon Tate was murdered, the Beatles music, Helter Skelter, was tied to that. And then Judas Priest, I believe he was taken to court and sued because some kid committed murder or something and blamed Judas Priest and his music. So yeah, I mean, I think music affects every society. And
It does. Absolutely. And I've interviewed a number of hip hop rap artists, and I ask questions, similar to what you're asking. And when I ask a question like, have you thought about doing some more positive lyrics? And typically the response will be, well, yeah, but nobody will play it, number one, on the radio. And there's a lot of truth to that. And more importantly, they say, I'm only rapping about my life experience, how I grew up, what I saw, what impacted my life. So I say to that, I can respect that and understand what you're saying. But we don't have enough artists that are doing the positive, uplifting spirit. And I beg and plead the broadcasters to give some of the positive music a chance.
To
And stop
society.
stop banging the same old hateful, downtrodden, evil, negative messages to our youth, because we now have 40 years of it. I mean, hip hop rap has been around for about 40 years now. So that's four generations.
85.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it started in the 80s with, um, who was it? Rappers Delight and those guys.
MC Light. Yep, I
Yep.
remember that. MC
Yep.
Light and all them guys. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've come a long way. Now, what is it going to look like 10 years from now, 20 years from now? Who knows? But I've in my 50 plus years being around the radio business, there's about every 8 to 10 years, there's a change. And I'm begging and pleading for a change now, because we need to see something different, new and exciting. And that's what keeps the music business alive. Not, I remember back in the 80s, a lot of artists that came out, every label tried to emulate whoever was popular at that time. So Michael Jackson was hot. Trust me, every label in the world was looking for a Michael Jackson look-alike, act-alike, sound-alike. And the same thing with Prince and all the successful artists, male and female.
Yeah.
They all chased whoever was hot at that time.
Jackson 5. I mean, man, they put the music out, and I mean, they hit after hit after hit.
Yeah, that's true.
Then New Edition
the
came
Osmond Brothers came about.
Yep, the Osmond Brothers. Yep.
And before the Jackson 5, it was the Five Stair Steps, which was a family R&B artist. And so I look at them as one of the pioneers, and then Jackson 5 came in after them.
Chairman of the board.
Norman Johnson from Norfolk, Virginia. Went to school with my oldest sister. Really? And he's no longer with us.
Coach, you said something a few minutes ago, and I know a lot of people listening to the show, man, and I wanted to do this show on Let the Truth Be Told because we want to show our versatility. We're trying to cover things so that our listeners and our viewers could see different issues that we tackle, and I think all issues are important to talk about because I think music has played a real strong role in our young people's minds and how it affects our communities with the music. And I know now I've been looking at some of the music and my granddaughter, she's a hip hop artist or a rap artist. And she's down in Atlanta and she got some great lyrics. I mean, she music is good, but it's just the contents of the music, But my daughter called me and told me, she said, Dad, your granddaughter's a hip hop artist. And Taylor the Bomb, that's her name.
Taylor the Bomb.
Yeah. So,
okay.
And when I listened to the music, it was good, but it was just the lyrics was, they was cussing and all like that. And so
not something you're proud of.
Society.
Yeah.
Right. That's the point that I'm getting to. And I looked at the music, and then I have a granddaughter that's in Iowa, and I was there, and she was like, well, Grandpa, you just old fashioned and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh no. I said, we listen to hip hop. And so she was listening to some music, and I try to listen to lyrics on what they're saying and what they're teaching the kids, because music can influence. It is a big influencer in our children. And so when I was listening to the lyrics, I couldn't even hear the words they were saying because they were mumbling. And so I told my granddaughter, I said, well, sweetheart, I said, I don't really understand what they're saying. She says, Grandpa, you're just so old fashioned. It's called mumble rap. And the guys actually were just mumbling. And it blew me away. It was like mumbling, but the beat.
You know what I say to that is, you mumble because you don't have talent. You use that as an excuse. You invent a sound or an attitude because you're not that good. And I'll tell them right in front of their faces, look, dude, that's not that good. Anybody can do that. And that's why you got so many rappers sounding like everybody else, because anybody can do it. Some beat tracks and
Yep.
run some stuff backwards and make some funny sounds and stuff and put some lyrics on top of it. And what drives me crazy, when I hear a rapper that's like, and the beat is not in tune with the rhythm of his rap, it's like, why? Come on, where's the rhythm? How your lyrics connected to the track that you're rapping on? You could put bubblegum music under it; it wouldn't matter.
Exactly.
Because it's not connected.
Well,
and what I was taught is a song becomes a song when you got a great lyric and a great track, music bed. And they must marry each other. They must connect. But some of the stuff I hear today, man, is not connecting at all. It's very cheaply done, and I get that. And I don't think you need a whole lot of talent to do it. Now, I know, somebody like Jay-Z who said, no, Lee, you're wrong. This is the, and listen, love Jay-Z, love his wife, love all the success that they have had. But he is smart enough to surround himself with people that are smart, can bring something to the table, as well as Puffy and some of the other successful rappers and producers. They had a team of people, or have a team of people around them to bring something to the table. What you see and hear isn't necessarily an idea or an effort from one person. It's a collaborative effort. If you look at the background and the teams that these guys have around them, it's huge. Same thing with the rappers here on the West Coast. NWA. That was a collaborative effort. Every one of those guys had a unique skill to bring to the table. And they went off individually and became successful too, because they all had something unique.
Didn't Barry White, didn't he, not only was a singer-songwriter, but didn't he help compose Love's Theme?
Oh, absolutely. That was his creation.
I mean, he was versatile.
Oh, he's a musician. He was a composer.
Yeah.
He could read music.
Yep.
That was his strength of what he did. Isaac Hayes, same thing.
Yeah, Isaac Hayes too.
Yeah, these guys. David Porter was one of the major supporting guys behind Isaac. But these guys understood and could write, arrange, and produce and sing. They could do it all. Those were true artists.
Yeah, like the Stylistics, they did a lot of love songs.
That's right.
You make me feel
that's what they were absolutely. Yeah. Do you know how many babies were made from the Stylistics?
The Isley Brothers
and the Delphonics.
Oh,
the Shy-Lights.
Temptations. Yeah.
The Spinners. Oh, yeah.
There was a lot of hits made, man, off that good music, man. I'm telling you.
Absolutely.
And then, too,
Marvin Gaye.
It was the attitude that it brought, when we came up, the Isley Brothers and all those people you just called, when we went to concert, it was laid back. It was no fighting, no shooting. It was not none of that. And people really enjoyed themselves. And now when you go to concerts, man, you have to worry about if you're going to get home safe, because everybody's packing.
That's true.
Everybody's got an attitude. But, Coach, you said something that was very powerful, and I want to talk a little bit about that. If you look at all these successful artists, and, you got Snoop, you had Pac, you had Biggie, you had all these black artists who have came from the gutter, and they made money. But a lot of them never really reinvested back into the black community.
Yeah.
I thought that, you would think that after coming from a lifestyle like that, you would be just like the guy Nipsey Hussle in California. He was buying up the blocks. He was creating stores. He was doing this and that. You would think after all these hardcore guys who got out of jail and made it big, that they would come back to the Black communities and start reinvesting into it and start to rebuild it. And I just think that that's something that I want to expound on, because a lot of times these rap guys do not know how to manage money.
That's true.
At the
Because
end of the day,
they
end
never
up
left
broke.
the street mentality behind. And some of them have, you know, and some are doing some things in the community to make things better, but not enough. Same thing with the sports guys, you know, recording artists, sports, movie, theater. And I mean, listen, it's up to you as an individual to carve out your legacy.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I've tried to do in my career is to help somebody who has shown interest, has the passion, willing to put in the work to become a radio professional. When I see that in a person, you've got my undivided attention, and I will reach out to you and pull you along, mentor you, help you in any way that I can, so that you can carry the baton, as I call it, to someone else. Someone handed the baton to me in 1965 and said, "Come on, son, come on in, let me help you out." And I made a promise to that person that I would do the same. And I've been passing batons out over the last 50 years and helping different individuals to become successful in the broadcast community. That's how you keep something alive. If we don't do that, if that stops, and basically it's at a very slow pace, damn near dead now, because the industry has changed so much. The ownership of the radio stations is only maybe 10 companies that control 95% of all of the radio stations, over 12,000 stations in America. When that happens, creativity goes out the door. iHeart Media, now it's called, has destroyed the broadcast industry. They got into the business because radio was spilling off crazy margins of profit, 40, 50, 60%. They saw those bottom lines and went nuts. They started buying up radio stations and paying too much for them. When you pay 400, 450 for one FM radio station, 450 million, I'm saying, that's crazy. You're never going to make that station work. Your overhead, your debt service is too high. Even if you paid cash for it, you're not going to see the return on your money. Because if a station is doing 40 or 50% cash flow today, net profit, it's not going to be 45% next year, 50% the next year. It doesn't grow like that. There's a thing called a ceiling, an apex when it peaks out. And where do you go from there? You can maintain that peak for a period of time, but competition and the industry changes comes into play, and then you may start going down. And so you're not going to stay at that apex long enough to recoup your dollars and see a legitimate profit. They didn't listen. I begged radio companies not to do it. Don't pay that kind of money. Don't buy that station. Pass on that one. It's too rich. You're not going to see the return. They didn't listen.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Markle?
Sure.
What you were just describing, paying all that money out for a radio station, do you think that that's being done today to make a profit, or do you think it's being done to monopolize?
Yes and yes. The idea is to make money, a profit, because they have stockholders, and the stockholders want to see return on their investment. They have bank loans, and the banks want to get paid. So there is a level of or necessity to make money. But when you control media, you also control the message or the messages that you want to portray. the broadcast industry became deregulated under Reagan, and every president since then has not done anything to reverse the negative outcome from deregulating. Now, I know I might piss off some people, when I bring up stuff like that, but the reality is the broadcast business pre-deregulation, you had thousands of radio station owners. You don't anymore. And those radio station owners during those days had a commitment, and they were licensed to serve the community. That means nothing now. Absolutely nothing. We were required to carry a certain number of hours of news, public service announcements, and public affairs programming. Once the industry was deregulated, all of that went out of the door. The Federal Communications Commission said to the broadcaster, okay, we're not going to police you. You guys are big boys. You've invested a lot of money in these stations. You're going to police yourselves now. So they put the fox in the chicken coop.
And Coach,
he destroyed it.
and
They're going to be honest with themselves? No. They look for every opportunity to milk and pimp the radio business for their own personal growth. I'll give you another example. Many of the presidents and chairmen and the chairman members of these companies get bonuses based on success or not. Many times they get bonuses anyway, even if the company loses money. I've seen presidents and the chairman of the board bonus themselves $2.5, $5, $10 million, and the company went down 20%. How does that work? But what happens is the general managers, the program directors, the air personalities, the marketing and promotion department, the sales department, they take it in the shorts because the big guys are going to take care of themselves first. So my bonuses were based on performance, ratings. Ratings translate into revenue. If my ratings went down, I didn't get my bonus. If my ratings went up, I got bonus. So why is it different at the top level? Because they own it. They can do what the hell they want to do, and they will reward themselves for doing a bad job.
How about
that?
Go ahead, Steve.
What about this? Government spends hundreds of millions of dollars in our media.
Yep.
So,
advertising.
As you were saying, when they got deregulated, they didn't have to give us quality.
That's true.
They're being paid by government, and I mean MSNBC, CNN, your or your NBC, so on and so forth. They get millions and millions and millions of dollars from government. So what's
only in the form of advertising?
Well, yeah,
they don't get any other funding.
But they don't have to do a good job to get the advertising because that's being paid for by government. So they're not earning through good reporting and stuff, because they're still, no matter what, they can take a side now and know they got money coming in to compensate for their bad business.
Well, yes, you're right, and let me try to massage what you just said. The government does have an advertising budget for certain programs that they're trying to get implemented, whether it's the SBA. The government spent a lot of money on the COVID, rollout, trying to get people educated and understanding about what needs to be done. So yeah, those kinds of funds filter down to radio, television, and some print. But on the other hand, during the political seasons, the candidates spend a lot of money, but that's not government money. That's your money that you're contributing to these candidates.
Right.
So that's people funding. But the broadcaster has to pay for a license to operate to the Federal Communications Commission. So, and that has changed a lot too. Now, if you wanted to buy a radio station today, now there is a interesting situation because so much has happened over the last 20 plus years. If you wanted to buy a station today, let's just say you found a station that you would like to buy and it's $20 million. $20 million today will buy you a medium-sized market, not a major market. You can't buy a station in New York or LA, Chicago for $20 million. It ain't going to happen. But you go to Wells Fargo or Bank of America, Chase or Citibank and say, hey, look, I've got this business plan and, I want to buy this station. It's in Tulsa, Oklahoma for $20 million. Before you can even get that far, when you say, I want to buy a radio station, they're going to hang up on you because they've already been burned by bad deals, overpriced deals in the past. Most of the major banks are no longer invested into media because they got pimped out. When iHeart filed bankruptcy just a few years ago, they flushed $11 billion.
Wow.
They got rid of $11 billion. Who got hurt in that? Everybody, except the people at the top at that company. They got a bonus for flushing the money.
Yeah.
So and that to me is just shy of criminal. Maybe it is criminal. I think it is because the banks lost money on that. The private investors, the investment bankers, your stock went down. So, but I guess it's legal for them to do stuff like that. And they're still hurting. They're not making a profit.
And folks,
they own every damn thing. The Ticketmaster, Live Nation. At one time, they owned 80% of the billboards that you saw on the side of the street. They sold a bunch of that stuff off. But they own the majority of the best radio stations, some of the television stations, all of the entertainment venues, and they're invested in the music business now. So that's a monopoly, and that's not good for America or the country, the world. It's not good.
Right.
Why? Because most of those people don't know what the hell they're doing. If you look at the chairman of the board and the president of most of these companies, most of them have never been a DJ. Most of them have never run a radio station. And those that did, they did it 30, 40 years ago, and it's different now. And they have turned to a blind eye to reality because their only point is to make more money, cut budget, take it to the bottom line so we can keep our money.
And Coach, you're so right. I wanted to make sure that we get a few minutes to talk about our relationship. Folks, we're talking to legendary producer, music industry, radio, Mr. Lee Michaels. He has been around forever. He is a legend in this business. And I want to talk about our relationship. Today, you and I talked with the owner at Tech TV, and you decided that you're going to work with the Let the Truth Be Told talk show and help produce it and help it get it out there. And we're going to get a better form. So, Mr. Binky, look at our new producer.
Again. Yeah. I mean, I'm excited about the opportunity that's in front of you now. And like I said earlier, show me that spark in your eye and that desire to do it and do it right and do it to the best. Okay, I'm in.
And good. And I appreciate that, Coach, because you got me started in this business about a year or so ago. You got me trained and God has brought me to this place, man. And it's only fitting that you created this. We need to take it to the next level. So I appreciate you coming on. We got to get out of here. Coach, we'll be talking in your last words.
My last word?
Coach, like your last words.
Coach.
Okay. My last words is support this network. Tell your friends, like, share, and subscribe. Because, in talking with the owner of the company today, I hear and feel big things coming out of this operation, and you need to be a part of it. And that's how you can.
God bless you, Coach, and we'll be talking soon. Your last words, Mr. Binky. Great show.
Well, yes, and I appreciate Mr. Michaels a ton. My last words is, some days when I feel stupid, I always stop and remember there are people watching The View.
Go, Mr. Binky. And we'll see you tomorrow. 2 more days on the road. Folks, I want to thank you for turning in. I want to thank my guests for showing up. And I want to thank you for listening. We're trying to be versatile. We're looking at different areas in our lives, and we're trying to get people in who know about this business. If you're interested, if you're an artist out here and you need to find things out about the music industry, or if you're looking for an opportunity to get into a record deal or whatever, call us at the number on the screen, 708-663-5262. And we'll be able to get you over to Coach, and he can tell you what you got and what he can do to help you out since he's aboard with us. These are my last words. I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to thank the Living and Driving My Black Foundation for sponsoring it. If you want to be a part of this Black-owned and operated station, the Exceptional Conservative Network, y'all can call us at the number 708-663-5262. It's a young station. We're growing, Black-owned and operated. We don't care about the color. All we worried about is the contents. And our mission is to be able to give good contents to the American people, tell them the truth, and figure out ways and solutions that we can use to make this country great again. So I want to thank you for listening. We'll be back tomorrow, 6 o'clock Central, 7 Eastern Time, and we'll be bringing you more about the news. We're going to talk a little bit about Hunter Biden. We're going to talk more about midterm elections. We're going to talk about what the American people need to do from this point in order to get this country back on track. God bless you. Thank you for listening, and peace.